Good evening, everyone. How are you all tonight? It's good to see you. So, we were just having a good conversation. That's why we're a couple of minutes late. So, thank you for bearing with us. Ari and I, we could talk anyone's ear off together. So, it's one of the million reasons why we get along so well, right? Um, so tonight we're really excited about this episode because you know that both Ari and I are nerds when it comes to poetry, especially. We are both published poets, and we we just got published in an anthology together, which is exciting. Not to mention, I had my first book come out. Ari is working on their first book, so that is awesome. Before we get started, of course, I'm going to read our show's statement and then connect it to the significance of why we're focusing on poetry. And then we'll say hi to everyone, and then we'll get started with some commentary from you, Ari. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
By P.S., we are doing this episode without any notes because we just felt like winging it tonight. So I'm kind of thrilled about that because
I'm a little nervous because I'm not so used to going without a net like this.
me neither. Like, I'm nervous, but at the same time, I'm kind of well, see, I'm nervous, but then I realized I used to do live streams without notes, so I'm kind of like, Johnny, you've done this, so I think you're fine. If anybody remembers the mundane life of a gay, I never really did those um episodes without any with any notes. So, all right. So, many witness different atrocities, large or small, that fray the social fabric around us, and much of the time, many may feel powerless and know not how to address such things. And this fray has gotten worse with the rise of social media because that means we're all able to kind of experience any collective trauma as it goes viral live. So that also creates a situation where we can experience this collective grief and outrage simultaneously. So that begs the question of what can we do to mend the communities that have seen considerable tragedy? And many of these tragedies are often caused by social injustices. So our goal with this show is to work toward restitching the tapestry through conversation, creativity, and action in order to understand what we can do to fix such things. And interestingly enough, poetry is one of those means of following a social justice path, creating a social justice commentary, because for a long time, poetry was always that art form that served as creating social commentary against atrocities happening throughout various cultures. So, I know for me lately, especially with everything happening the past year, poetry has definitely been an outlet for me in which I've been able to kind of reflect on current events and kind of gain some sort of catharsis, in expressing my feelings about them. So, we're gonna probably delve into a bit of that tonight, so I'm really excited. So, before I have Ari take it away, I do want to say hi to Arpy and David and Igni and Shayna. All of you are here, and it's good to see you. Welcome to our little poetry reading tonight. So, Ari's working on a book, everyone. Ari, do you want to talk a little bit about that? I'm flailing right now.
So, Donnie told me so I published a poem in Alien Buddha Wears a Black Bandana. You can find it on Amazon. And I was really excited about it because it was my first poem published. And Donnie kind of floated it to me that maybe I should work on a manuscript. And I was like, oh, I already know what I would do if cuz I cuz I've been writing about 6 poems every day since probably what was it, like March or April, since probably the beginning of the pandemic, like 6 poems a day, pretty religiously. I have, I don't know, like, here's my back order of poems I need to like type up. So like, here's all of my poetry. Like,
Oh my god, yes.
this is all my poetry. Like, I have a lot of poetry. Just
Hashtag poem writing goals.
I have just a lot of poetry that just kind of sort of hangs out. But like, I've been typing up stuff, and like, I have like some poems that like stick out in my mind, and that's not even including like the poems that I wrote when I first came home from the mental hospital and I started writing 6 poems a day in October of 2018. I wrote about like maybe about 150 to about 200 poems over a period of like a month and a half, that were just typed up, and I had a bunch of poems. So like, I just had all of these poems just like building up and taking up space, and I had like an idea of like what I would do if I wrote a manuscript, and I was like, "Oh, you want me to write a manuscript? I got it. I know what I would do." And he was like, "LOL, are you serious?" And I was like, "Yeah." So then literally like then we talked about it, and we talked about it for quite a while. And this was like last week after
It
we
was right
had
after our show.
after our show. We talked for quite a while, and I stayed up probably until like 4:30 in the morning, and I emailed him at about like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. And I had the first draft of the manuscript done by that time, because all I had to do was just go choo, 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 and it was done. It literally was that easy. Um,
I love
and
it.
so I have the first draft done. It Yeah, it's that easy. I just need to work on the second draft and kind of finesse it a little and make it a little bit cleaner. Um, but it's nothing too bad.
Hmm. I mean,
But
coming from somebody who's read half of it already, it's some good stuff. Like literally as soon as I got it, like the next morning, I was just like, I need to binge it. And I binged like half of it. It's really good. And um like I think one of the most enjoyable parts of putting together a manuscript of poetry is actually assembling it, you know? Because it's really fun puzzle piecing everything together. Oh my gosh, my friend Sarah is here. Hello, Sarah. Your comment popped up late. I apologize when I was mentioning everybody else's names. Um, so um, David also says that I thought of an appropriate limerick this week that I think you'd enjoy if it's okay to share. Feel free to copy and paste it into the chat box. We'll read it.
we will definitely read your limericks. Did we talk about this last week? Limerick writing
Yeah,
contest.
I didn't write a limerick though because I
I I
suck at
didn't
writing
have time.
limericks.
I have not written a limerick probably since I was 14.
Same. Oh, Sarah, I miss you. I miss you. Um, I have to credit my dear friend Sarah Harrington for the phenomenal photo that she took of my book against a really beautiful autumnal background that I've been using for like promotional things. So, like your photography skills are phenomenal. But then again, I'm not surprised. Coming from one artistic soul to another, of course. Um, There once was a fairy named Mole whose sister Belvira always stole. The other sis Laura loved all the flora while Mothra beat Ghidorah in a Tokyo brawl.
Yes.
The universe needs to see it. The like I literally was just thinking the other day that I needed to watch the 90s Mothra movies, and that was a sign from the universe being like, Donnie, you must watch these movies because it has been too long. Normally, I watch them once a year, and it's been like a year and a half. Anyway, David, thank you for that. Appreciate that. So, before we get to reading poems, Ari, do you want to share what the title is of your manuscript?
Full of now.
So, do you want to elaborate on where that came from?
It's a poem that I wrote that is kind of the apex of the poetry in the book, where it kind of balances between hopelessness and joy, where it's sort of that tipping point between all things going wrong and just finding the peace finally, um, where it's just finally moving into that zone of things are finally turning to good.
So, like
So,
the like actual reality is the thing that is filling in a way,
yeah.
and I really think that's interesting. I love
Mhm.
like, I think it's a really catchy title. We've even been working on the cover of it already too, so
Yeah.
it's on the way. Like, I am just so excited. I'm so excited. Well, see, here is a confession.
How's your book doing?
My book is doing fine. We're talking about yours right now, though. Here is a confession. I loved that segue. I have adored Ari's work since we were in college, and in my mind, like, I've just always imagined holding a collection of Ari's work in my hands. So, hopefully soon that'll be a reality. So, that was my confession. Anyway, my book is doing well so far. I am scheduled to be Alien Buddha Press's Artist of the Month for December, so there's going to be an interview, and I think I'm participating in one live reading for an anthology out of Chicago, and then I think there's some sort of radio show that Alien Buddha Press is doing that I'm going to be participating on. So there's some things in December that will be happening.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
Oh, you're so sweet. Oh, also, if you didn't get a chance to watch my reading that I did last Thursday, if you go to Donny Speaks, it is on that channel. So it's about an hour long. So if you're bored and you just want to listen to me read poems from my collection, um, go for it. All right. Okay, Igni wrote a haiku, a game of poker, a hand of 7 and 2. His love folds her hand. Ooh.
I like it.
Ooh.
Because his love folds her hand like poker.
Yes.
Yes. I like it.
It's like the love is the catalyst. Like, that is clever.
I like it.
I love it. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, if you guys, as we're reading tonight, if you come up with poems of your own, feel free to put them in the chat box. So Ari and I have a slew full of poems to read. Like, obviously, Ari has a very significant collection that they've prepared, right, with all of the experience writing those poems over the past several months. Not to mention poems from the collection. Um, we have like a couple of books I think that we might read some poems from, like, from other people. I have a poem written by my friend Cindy, who is a phenomenal poet that I'm going to be reading, and then I'm going to be reading some of my act poember ones, and then some angsty ones from my old diary. So there will be a very diverse selection tonight. Let's just say, Ari, would you like to start us off with one?
Yes. This one I've read on my channel before, but I love it, so I'm gonna read it again.
Yes,
It's called Prayer for You.
I remember that one very well.
It's called so Prayer for You. I drink coffee to fill the emptiness without food. I meditate to fill the emptiness without you. I feel a sense of peace and calm, though my nerves are steady here, my body lying low, the place of interesting passion, joy and beauty without restraint that picks me up, floating away upon clouds ephemeral above myself somehow as I play the song again. My brain set afire, turn me on, turn it up, then release and release again in silence this time, my breath panting in my throat for you, for me, for all the birds and trees, for all the people with their lights on in their apartments at this time at night, for all the people who roll in their sleep, going to dream and dream again on their way to work in the morning when they're tired and grumbling, trying to kill it with coffee, but say a sacred prayer coming near, this prayer for all, this prayer for you, my darling dear, I love you, too true. There's nothing else to say or to do.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Like, see, I think the one thing that I really like about your poems is that, like, your poems are having a conversation, like an introspective conversation in each of them. And the way you read them, like, it's almost like the audience is inside the poem experiencing and partaking in that conversation with the writer in a way. Like, that's what I really, really enjoy about them. So, when you wrote that one, what headspace were you in? What were some of your inspirations for it?
Um, so basically I was kind of like dreaming and I was just letting myself kind of sit and be in a moment because that's how most of my poetry is. I'm just in a moment, just taking in the sensory around me, and I'm just letting moments pass in front of me. And I'm thinking about like just how the world is and how people are and how small we are and how we have only this moment to live um and how uh how it can be sexy and interesting and sad but beautiful and true and wonderful, but people tend to make it not so wonderful because they're often letting it be confused because they're just trying to go on their way to work and they're just trying to, be befuddled by these things in life that don't matter. So that's what I was thinking about when I wrote it.
I really connect with that, like, significantly. And while you were explaining that, there was a poem that I wrote that almost got in my book, but I didn't put it in there. Maybe I'll put it in the next one. The poem is actually titled A Moment. I think I performed it on my Donnie Speaks channel a long time ago, but I can't remember. Piggy Von Monroe is here. Hello. And Shayna, that's totally okay. It was wonderful seeing you too. If you want, you can rewatch it later on as when we get it finished. So you have a good rest of your night. So, a moment, and it kind of follows a similar theme-ish that yours did. Raindrops slink down stems until soil digests, like a sod sponge saturated, while a robin sits high in an ash tree, singing in debate with the sky, saying, let it rain more. Below, a boy types a half-spelled novel on his phone, listens to music behind moving metal and glass in an automobile cage. We sacrifice the abstract measurement of moment for a hurried increment of time. We industrialize, sterilize, pasteurize, and cauterize the world around us to fit our needs. Now raindrops slink down into drains, Pigeons excrete in our pavement or our paved streets. Humans inhale chemical and ash. Moments evolve into increments, shape days into convenient puzzle pieces in desperate attempts to organize chaos. An encyclopedia of knowing lives in robin song, falls with rain, and is written in leaves. Chaos isn't merely the absence of time, it's our unwillingness to live in the moment. I have to like edit that one a little bit because I was getting a little stumbled over it. But um, when I was writing it, I couldn't stop thinking about how everybody just kind of ignores the world around them, and we kind of just fall victim to this hurried 9 to 5 life where we just create these unrealistic expectations for ourselves as being these assembly lines, um, and and we don't take a moment to just listen and use our senses to observe the world around us and what the world is saying. The reason why I almost included that in the book is because it's very much an environmental themed piece, because when I wrote it, I also was thinking about how we are ignoring what's happening in the environment, what we're doing to the world around us.
Mhm.
So damn it, I'm kind of annoyed that I didn't put it in there. Oh well. Oh well. Gotta save something for collection number 2.
It's true. It was good though. I liked it.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Your turn.
Okay. I
Thank you, Igni, by the way. Yeah, we might have a couple minutes or so. We might have to look for a poem because I don't know about Ari, but I didn't go and flag anything. So we're going by our intuition.
I'm going to read this one from my upcoming collection.
Full of now.
Yes, Mercury stretched in our worlds.
Yes.
Mercury waded through these waters to the beach that Aphrodite was born. He laid out his materials and called upon the rest of the gods quietly, the sand sticking to his salty legs, but the gods never came, never again, not to this universe in which he landed. So he gathered up his artifacts and wandered until the sands of time weighed on him. Then he slowed and laid in his bed, nothing to show for it except for a few baubles some 1,000 years later. I was there with Mercury, hearing tales of worlds beyond.
That poem is so whimsical. Like, it's whimsical, but it really, like, because I know, well, and we talked about one of the themes in your books. Like, listening to you read it, like, that theme seems so much more distinct now, too. Because sometimes when you listen to people perform their pieces, like, it kind of helps you understand something deeper from it, too. So when you wrote that one, what was your, like, talk a little bit about it. What was your,
So, I do this thing. So I believe in life. I believe in two forms of it's because my book is about my life basically. And something that I do with my life is that I have my version of reality and my alternate version of reality, which I call my romantic life. And what I do with my romantic life is that I turn the people that I know into Greek and Roman gods. So Mercury stretched out on the shore is someone that I know. Uh, it turned into a Greek god. So it's talking about someone in this epic, beautiful sense, but it's actually like somebody that I know in a real sense, um, just being talked about in a over the top manner, because I'm I'm kind of out of my head. So it's almost it's almost that I'm not coming to terms with reality in a way, because I'm still kind of, it's not that I'm delusional, but it's that I'm not really thinking about the way that things are, because I'm trying to think about how things could be. It's kind of hopeful, but it's also really sad.
Yeah, I can definitely feel the bittersweetness in it in a way. And when I was going through your collection, I that was definitely a recurring sensation, like a sense of like this bittersweetness, hesitant acceptance. And it's interesting because I'm thinking of some poems in my own collection where I do that too, because I think coming from the perspective of two people like us who do struggle with mental health and who have worked really hard to get where we are with it, like we needed to reach a point of acceptance in order to know what direction to go in, right? So I really like that parallel. That's so interesting.
Mhm.
Careful, I'm nerding out now. Like you've unleashed it. So Igni wrote another haiku on a rainy walk. Was it recently? It goes, a lake of crystal, the waters ripple and sway as rain falls gentle. Oh, I love that rhyme. Crystal and gentle. That's a very sensory haiku. And I really commend you because haikus are really like people think that they're easy to write, but they're actually challenging because you have to keep things very much condensed down to a specific set of syllables, right? So I know like when I have my students, because I make my students write haiku poems sometimes, like, and they're like, well, these are going to be easy. And then they try to do it. And I'm like, yeah, joke's on you. Like, it's really funny sometimes.
I know, it's so hard. I try to do it sometimes and I'm like, "Oh my god, this is like torture."
This is why I prefer tanka poems because they are like they're like an extended haiku because it just gives you two extra lines to work with, and I'm just like I'll take those two extra lines any day. But yes, Igni, that was very beautiful. Thank you for sharing it. So I have an old angsty poem that I'm going to read. Um, so Ari remembers this old journal from a long time ago, probably. I had it in college because I remember like we would like just write together, like we would just journal together. In fact,
I love
fair,
it.
I'm fairly sure there was a poem somewhere in here that you wrote for me a long time ago. I'll have to find it. But here is a poem that I wrote on June 4th, 2010. And I obviously when I do journaling, even if it's writing poems, I always try to like note the date, where I was, so on and so forth, because I don't know, I'm really obsessed with record keeping. It's something that just amuses me. So
Yeah.
I wrote this poem about a childhood friend, and the poem is titled What You Don't Know. It's going to be very angsty, so just prepare yourselves. This is old work. Many make the tragic mistake of not being honest when time permits. Life seems to slip by like anxious yet nutrient storm clouds, leaving behind a trail of washed out memories and faded images. Our dim childhoods left us with nothing but a genuine reminder. People come and go for various times, like the moon waxing and waning. Some people stay, some people leave, and there are those who are found again. Bridges have crumbled, our lives have beaten us into the ground like a pack of seething hyenas. And that was it. I feel like it's unfinished because now that I read it, like I ended it with dot dot dot, and I would only ever do that when I was planning to finish something. So guessing I didn't finish that one. So, hmm. That one's better than the other angsty ones in here, just saying. Ari, do you have another one to read for us?
Um, I'm gonna read the fight.
Yes.
Solidarity costs nothing and everything. The words fell out of your mouth like daggers, then sludge. It poured over me in thick barrels of illness. I coughed in its wake. Don't come down on me. I escaped with my life, but just barely. My head reeled as I drove away, observing the waves of tension as they flowed. My belly empty, my mind full. Then I rode it all the way home to safety. When you didn't come, I was first relieved. Then sadness filled me. What a reminder. We live in a fallout. We tend our gardens with poison flowers. Come home to get you, my pretty.
Oh my God. We tend our garden with poison flowers. Was that kind of a reference to Wizard of Oz in a way? Like,
It is, yeah.
yes, that was phenomenal. Like, that was really good. Like it just, I'm just mind blown by it right now. What, like, share your inspiration for it, if you're okay with that, of course.
Um, so one of the things that I was dealing with in the early days of my illness up until fairly recently, is that a lot of the chaos of my illness is that it put a lot of strain on my relationships. So, um, you know, because it's one of the side effects of bipolar is that um, you know, it turns some of your family members into caretakers, and so it doesn't always have really good consequences with that. Like it doesn't have like a really good like it's sussing out those it doesn't have like it changes the way of your relationships, and so sometimes it doesn't end well. So I had a lot of fights uh, with family members because we were just sussing out these new rules in our relationships. Um, and so I wrote a lot about these fights that we would have just because I was just trying, I was writing every day. And so I was just writing through the good times and the bad times. And I was just writing to get all these emotions out. And it was just art therapy for me to like just get it down on paper and just to work through what I was dealing with and just to deal with the good and the bad. And so, um, what you see is the product of that.
Wow. Yeah, that's really layered. I really like that.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Igni, a Star Trek haiku. I'm sorry for the next verse. There are four lights. Star Trek: The Next Generation. Woo! That made my day. There are many things today making my day. So I have I have an October poem that I've not performed yet on my Donny Speaks channel because I'm ridiculously behind. I can't even remember what the last one was that I wrote. I think it was Anhedonia, or that I uploaded to YouTube. So this poem is kind of a dark poem, and it follows the theme of what my second collection is going to be about. And I'll be sharing details on that at some point in the future. I'm only like a third of the way through writing it, but this poem is titled Desperate Preservation. A child tapes fallen leaves back to trees because he can't bear to watch them die. He dreams he kept them alive. A woman flips through smudged scrapbook pages because she kept her former lover's roses preserved in nonstick coffins. A man stuffs the dog he had for 15 years, tortured by the calculated euthanasia, all to keep his eyes open. A teenager pins the butterflies from her car's grill in boxes to keep them beautiful, imagines they still fly. The embalmer repaints smiles on cold faces, prepares the deceased for one last performance, still presentable even in death. And that one is that. I to explain some context with that one, I remember when I was a kid, and I was trying to think of a way to use like this almost became a poem idea for my book, but I didn't put it in there. But when I was a kid, I would always get upset over the leaves falling in the fall
Mhm.
because I like somebody when I was like 5 told me that the trees are dying every year. And I was just like, "Oh my god, it's like how horrible of it that trees have to die every every year." Of course, I grew up and realized that they're not in fact dead. But I used to try to tape the leaves back to trees. Like there were a couple of days my grandma went outside and there was like an entire roll of duct tape that I had used to tape leaves to trees. And of course I got in trouble for it. But I was just like, that's really interesting. So I started thinking about all the different ways that we kind of decorate death to make it seem like it's not death, you know?
Mhm.
Whether it be a child taping leaves to trees, somebody putting old flowers in a scrapbook, a person taxidermying their animal, which happens more often than I realized. Um, People pinning insects into things, and of course morticians and what they do. Like that, in a way, is what morticians do. They make the dead look appealing so they can be presented one last time, one final performance. So I kind of like nerded out over that when I came up with the idea and went along with it. Yeah, David says, I guess that one means that you can't hold on to everything forever, no matter what Kodak tells you. Exactly. Like it like kind of what we were talking about earlier. It's definitely like this bittersweetness, like this like reality. Like
Uh-huh.
just like realizing that we do decorate death to make it more
Pretty.
palatable and
Yeah.
acceptable.
Right.
Um,
We put makeup on corpses and stuff like that.
yeah. So yeah, so I don't know. I kind of had fun with that one. And I
Mhm.
appreciate you saying that it wasn't as dark as I mean, I don't mind writing a dark poem. Like I think maybe the bittersweetness of it is what was dark to me at the beginning because I know I read it for another person and when I came across the line of the man stuffs the dog he had for 15 years, they were like, well, that escalated quickly.
I like that you write dark poems though, because yeah, it's good.
Thank you. I try to think of them as tastefully dark. Ari, your turn.
So I'm gonna read some other poems by other people. So um so this one is by Amelia L. Ortiz from the Cadencian Cannibal Cabaret. She's punk
Ooh.
rock. She's got a baby. I just wanted to show that off. The name of the poem is called Rememory of Strange Fruit. Strange fruit not hanging but withering in crowded trucks. Loss is expected in transport. Drivers still get paid at big bucks. Brown bodies praying for the pardon of our southern breeze. The south still produces strange fruit, just not entwined in trees. If the strange fruit survives delivery, it can be bought and sold. Market prices doubled if fruit is ripe and not too old. Dried and rotting fruit, rotting in the desert, trampled, falling off trains. Bondage continues in this land, though not with chains. Growers and traffickers supply consumer demand yields. There's a fortune to be made from strange fruit fertilizing fields. Memory of blood on leaves, memory of blood at root. The profits of the bitter crop outweigh our losses of our strange, strange fruits.
Interesting.
It says,
Definitely.
with thanks to Abel Mirapool and Toni Morrison.
To me, my interpretation of that poem, like, first of all, I love the sensory images in it and the rhyming and the parallels. Um,
Well, have you ever heard the song Strange Fruit?
mhm. Yeah, I was actually thinking about that a little bit. Like, to me, like, it also kind of created commentary about this commercialism that we kind of partake in when it's not always a good thing.
Hmm.
What do you take away from that piece when you read it, Ari?
So it's to me, it's like that how we have this market of like fresh produce from Southern and Central America that we get for very cheap in America, and the drivers get paid quite a bit of money. But people who pick and grow the fruit uh, don't get paid very much money. The people who are migrant workers don't make paid very much money. Um, uh, so it's like an economy that's based on like the working off the backs of the workers. Um, and it's like it's sort of lamenting the fact that like there's this economy of making money off this like economy of people who are disenfranchised, and like they are almost put to death by like um having to work themselves so hard.
Yeah, it kinda comes back to that toxic commercialism that I was mentioning, like, it benefits those who are privileged so much, but other people barely, if any. That's really powerful, and I see in the comments everyone's going fruity with those puns. Peggy Von Monroe says that, their favorite poem is called Romanticism by Adam Mickiewicz. I'll have to check it out. That sounds familiar to me. That does kinda sound familiar to me. So, I have a poem that I'm gonna read by one of my mentors, Jenny Molberg, in her book Refusal. Um, and it's a poem about, um it's very much about, to me, suicidal ideation. And so, just trigger warning, FYI, about that. And, like, when I read through this collection, which is a phenomenal collection, like, it really stood out to me, and it helped inspire some of the work in my own, book too. So this poem is titled Turbine. My husband hated trees. Trees to come up on the street sides, he'd shudder. Trees as far as my eyes go, and up the radio, and up all the windows. Evergreens were the worst. How they banded the horizon that gleamed like a hatchet between the limbs. I might well be going on, I'd think, be never coming back. In the windmills on I-69, They cut the sky to shreds, open air, that's all he wanted, flat lines. It like just the imagery in it really struck me. Like to me it was like, you know how like in films and shows where there's like something dramatic or drastic happening, there's like flashes, like scene flashes. Like to me that's what this poem was very much like. So I really enjoyed it. Mm. So, Ari, do you have another one?
Um, do I want to read another poem by someone else, or do I want to read one of my own?
I
I want
say
to
read.
read another one by someone else.
Okay, that was a quick decision.
I'm going to read one from K.Y. Robinson, The Chaos of Longing. This one's called Star Eater. When you look at me, stars cluster in your eyes, but I often wonder if my black holes will swallow them whole because deep down I'm a connoisseur of sabotage.
Oh my god. Oh my god, that one really hit me. And that's the whole poem. That's such a short poem, but it's so,
That's the whole poem.
man, do I relate to that one, being one of those self-sabotagey people. That was amazing. What's the title of that collection again?
The Chaos of Longing.
I may have to look that one up. That sounds interesting.
Hmm.
So, I'm going to read Cindy's poem now, which is titled Trauma Tectonics. This is one of my favorite poems that Cindy has written. Deep down, my goal in life is to also get Cindy to put together a collection of poems too, because I have so many talented friends that the world needs to read what they have. I don't know
Put
what
out, like, I need their vibes into the universe. Like, I
I
need
don't
all of
know
their books on my shelf.
I don't know what voguing choreography I'm trying to do, but okay. Trauma Tectonics by Cindy H. Some say recovering from trauma is a verdant pasture after a fire, beautiful, the scars invisible beneath flowers and golden sunlight. Maybe for some it is that way, but others see a different process, one that pastures shun away as wrong. It is the plate tectonics of emotion. Fault lines grind and break and clash, swinging the ground in earthquakes as lava blood scabs the land. There are no green pastures here, only the invisible agony of a person holding their muddy surface together with gravity and an ocean of tears. I
Wow.
like that one always I mean that one really strikes me because I really do think there is this what's the word? This romanticizing of recovering from trauma as being like this only beautiful result when really when you're recovering from trauma, it's a continuous process much of the time and it's not always pretty either.
Right.
And I think that's why that one really I mean that one really hits close to home, you know.
Mhm.
And the thing is, what's funny though, the people that paint trauma as being something beautiful are the people who really haven't experienced the trauma that they are talking about, you know? Like
Right.
they are like witnessing other people's trauma and they'll be like, wow, you like I know one person like I've had people tell me, Donnie, you've turned into such a functional person. Like you've turned into like such a lovely individual. And I'm just like, it didn't feel lovely getting to this point, nor would I characterize myself as being that all the time, you know? But it's just interesting to reflect on, you know?
It's true. And Um, I don't know. I like this the words ocean of tears because it's like sort of like it's almost never ending. Like the recovery from a trauma, like it seems like you never quite get over it. It just continues on and on.
Right. Yeah, and it swells. There's an ebb and flow to it. Yeah. Hi, Rogue Agent Killer Rodan. And Piggy Von Monroe, I do like epigrams. Sarah says, I think we're in a place of romanticizing healing so that we can get a place of normalizing healing. That's a really interesting point. Like, going off that, like, healing almost because we're so used to what we've been going through the last few years, let's just say, um, romanticizing healing is almost the only healing that we can get because it's not been normalized because of how divisive things have been. That's very interesting. Sarah, I think there might be a poem in that. You should write a poem about that. I know you enjoy writing. I would love to read it if you write one. So, Ari, what do you have next?
Um, it needs a little bit of editing, but I'll share this one. It's called Transcend. How does one explain this feeling, oceanic, rolling waves of joyous rapture washing over me? They say the apocalypse is just a great reveal. Our love could move mountains with these earthquakes. We'll soon settle down and remake the world in some way, a new way, beyond what is seen, revealed. Take my hand and transcend.
Oh my God. um, I felt transcendent listening to that. That was amazing. Like where, like that one's in your collection, you said?
No, it's not in my collection.
Oh,
So, so okay. For a while there, around August, September, I had this idea about soulmates and like that I was going to meet my soulmate soon. It's just part of this delusion that just got in my head. And so I started writing about soulmates and like that I was going to meet my soulmates. And so say like do a lot of like love poetry and like um so a lot of my poetry around this time is like very love focused. And so this is one of the poems I wrote that was like very love focused, um, about this like invisible person that I had not yet met, that does not exist, that is just like an invisible like person out in the ether that does not exist and is part of a delusion that I had.
oh. I love that though. Like, well, and it goes to show you though that like as poets, like we will veer in and out of writing based on certain like motivations and inspirations, and they're like, and a series of poems can result from that, Okay, David wrote a haiku reflection on how I have felt at times over the past few years. Specters of Auschwitz, the lessons have not been learned. Where is my passport?
It's very strong.
Wow. Specters of Auschwitz. That's very visceral. And see, like those three words, like just speak volumes.
Mhm.
Wow, David, that was excellent. I do have another poem as well. I know we're running low on time here. We have a few minutes left. So I'll read another October one. Let's see here. Um This one is titled A Soluble Tablet. And I wrote it when I first started my antidepressant. Because I think one of my fears, because I know, like, there's a lot of conditioning and a lot of stigma surrounding medication, and one of mine was always this fear of being robbed of my creativity due to the medication. Like, I
Mhm.
was really scared of that. But I wrote a poem. I thought actually it was like a few days after I started it. So I wrote a poem, and it's called A Soluble Tablet. A soluble tablet, heavy on the tongue, dissolves until gelatin gives way to the taste of bitter roots, then trails down my throat in a chalk river destined to take these clouds away, so I'll finally glimpse the day. As the sky spins beyond my range of vision, a flock of hummingbirds flutter, carry me by my extremities past the cloud deck where the daybreak bursts and burns away this pixelated gray. Yeah. I
So I love the imagery in that. Like it's it I just love it. It's got such good imagery. Like it's so good.
thank you. Thank you. I like the first few days I was experiencing side effects and like some negative side effects, but also like I don't know if it was like a placebo effect. Um but I was also feeling like a little bit more confident in myself because I had taken that large step. Now that it's been weeks later, I am observing results with the medication, but like the sky spinning beyond my range of vision, that was me being dizzy from it.
Uh-huh.
Hummingbirds fluttering and carrying me by my extremities, I felt like I was having, like, a lot of weird nerve tingling in my extremities, so it would like, I wanted to try to capture those sensations
Mhm.
in that, so, Ari, do you wanna read another one?
Uh yeah, I can read one more. This one's called Liminal. Space in between, people passing through. I used to hang out in like a rock, stuck in a stream. It feels cool and inviting, but also dangerous, off putting, like you don't belong, ignoring the obvious. Signs is easy if you basically ignore the conventions of society.
Yep. Oh my gosh, yep. Is that one's in your collection?
Yeah, it is.
Oh god, I like, it sounds familiar. Is it later in the collection, though?
It is later, yeah.
Okay, I remember seeing it, but I don't think I read it. Oh my god. Guys, this collection that Ari is doing, it's gonna be like, I'm just so excited. I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but, um, so now that we're getting close to everything being finished for our episode tonight, I wanted to, of course, remind everyone to go subscribe to Ari's channel, Strange Nothings, if you haven't done so yet, because Ari performs many poems on that channel as well. And additionally, if you haven't subscribed to mine yet, please do click like on our video. Keep coming back on Fridays because we're going to keep doing this. Um, and we'll probably do another poetry hour because I think this was a really fun episode. Like we were really looking forward to this one. Um, and of course, if you haven't gotten a copy of my book yet and you would like to, it's on Amazon. If you just search Carbon Footprint, it is up there. And I will keep everybody in the loop about future readings or anything else that might come up. So, Ari, do you have any parting words for our wonderful friends?
Keep writing, and your creativity is only bounded by your own imagination.
Oh my God, that's beautiful. I want to frame it. All right, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. We love and appreciate all of you, and you have a wonderful night. All right. Talk to you soon and take care. Bye.